Hello and welcome back to the U is Silent, We Aren't podcast, brought to you by Visit Staunton, Virginia, right here in Staunton. We are so excited for you guys to join us here today. We have been able to chat with so many amazing leaders throughout our community, and the whole spark for this podcast, as you guys probably know by now, was to not only share the attractions and work and organizations and things happening in Staunton, but I think just as captivating are the minds and passion and innovation behind all of these final products that you have. And so I'm just so excited to chat with our guest here today. Steve, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. We have Steve Powell, president of Buckingham Branch, which is also the overarching organization for the Virginia Scenic Railway, which is right here in Staunton, Virginia. So we especially love collaborating with you guys. But Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It is great being here. I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, it's so great to have you here. And even just in that intro, there's a lot that you're a part of. And we're going to dive into a lot of it. But would you like to share just a little bit of overview of your work, Buckingham Branch, Virginia Scenic Railway, just to give people an idea?
Yeah, sure. Buckingham Branch Railroad, we're a freight railroad. We started in 1988, so we've been in existence for 37 years now. We run 4 different freight railroads. The one that most people are familiar with here in this area is what we call our Richmond and Allegheny division. It goes from Richmond all the way to Clifton Forge. So we primarily run freight. We have about 40 freight customers. We also host Amtrak. So Amtrak comes across the line through here, and we also host CSX for empty trains. But in 2022, some changes in our lease arrangement made it so that we were able to start doing passenger excursions. And so we decided to start up passenger excursions here out of Staunton, and we call it the Virginia Scenic Railway. And so we started with just one car and one locomotive, and started out of Staunton and taking people out west for a 3-hour trip, and then in the afternoon we'll take them east for a 3-hour trip. And it's been really exciting, and seen a lot of growth and excitement in the Virginia Scenic Railway.
Oh, it's been amazing. And I'll give a plug for all of us involved in this. We're so excited to see the Scenic Railway featured on Virginia Tourism's travel guide for this year. So if you see that beautiful train through the mountains, that is the Virginia Scenic Railway, the only scenic train excursion in the state.
That's right.
And so it is just absolutely incredible. And something I have learned very quickly is that people are very passionate about trains and train travel and viewing them and staying up to date with what's going on. It is just incredible. So you have these enthusiasts, but then you also have casual train lovers that just want a getaway. And we'll get through all that. But I would love to know from your side, you've had a long career with Buckingham Branch. Can you kind of tell us about, like, how did you first get involved in the train world and as a profession, and that's now led to an incredible career with Buckingham Branch?
Well, it's kind of interesting how it happened. My dad, he was in the railroad industry for his entire life. So I grew up, I won't say necessarily around railroads, but I grew up that my dad worked for the railroad, and that's what, brought us our
Sure, a lot of
livelihood. Yeah.
a lot of dinner conversations, I'm sure.
Absolutely. But then I went to Virginia Tech in mechanical engineering. And when I got ready to graduate, my dad asked me about interviewing with CSX in their engineering department. And I was like, nah, not really interested. Don't want to do railroads, want to do something else. And so I went and I started a career somewhere else. And then after about 10 years, I really had a desire to move back to Virginia. And so I was talking to my dad about moving back to Virginia and starting another career. And he said, well, and I wanted to work at a small company. I was working for a large corporation and moving around and different things, and it just wasn't as appealing as it once was. So, and my dad had retired from CSX, and he was a consultant and a friend of Bob Bryant, who was the founder of the Buckingham Branch Railroad. And so Bob had given him the assignment to find a general manager. And so my dad had somebody in mind. And so he kind of snuck me in on a train ride one day with at the time, my 2-year-old son and my infant daughter, and kind of hooked me on the idea of
Mm.
trains. And so I decided to come and work for Mr. Bryant, and that was 27 years ago. And at the time, we had 17 miles of railroad, and I was employee number 7. And so
No way.
we've grown a lot since then.
Just a little bit, I would say. How tickled was your dad when I'm sure, he kind of stood back and watched it happen, but to see you then go into the real business as well.
I think it was really, really exciting for him.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from him. He was able to help me learn a lot about the industry, especially when it comes to customer relations. But it definitely gave us a lot to talk about, and it brought us a lot closer together. It was really neat.
Yeah, and I mean, especially even Bob was such a leader, especially in this profession and just in general. Is there anything in particular that stood out that you learned from Bob while working with him as general manager?
Yeah, well, Bob definitely taught me a lot too, and it was really, Bob was a really unique person. Bob never really had, at least the way I saw it, never had any big goals of getting more and acquiring more and growing. Instead, he just looked at opportunities, and it's kind of like, well, what can we do with this opportunity? So he always made the most of every opportunity. He always wanted to make things better than, when he got there, he wanted to make it better. So constant improvement. And so always investing money back into the company, always making sure that we had a positive image, always treating employees well. And those foundational principles definitely move on into everything we do at the railroad, but especially with the Virginia Scenic Railway.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I am not well versed in railroad travel, and so every time I chat with anybody with Buckingham Branch or the Virginia Scenic Railway, I'm just mesmerized because I feel like I learn something new every time. In 30 years or nearly 30, I'm sure you've seen a lot. Are there any like unexpected challenges or thing? I mean, even like I didn't know because all the time I know you guys get requests just as we do of, well, why can't the scenic railway just go further into this direction? It's like, well, you literally can't if you don't own or lease the physical railway as well and the train. So even just things like that, I had no idea about, but makes perfect sense. Are there any unexpected challenges or things that you've seen or kind of had to work through over the years?
There's been plenty of challenges.
I'm sure that was a very blanket question, honestly.
And some of the things that were particularly challenging, just starting up the Richmond and Allegheny division, the line that comes through here in Staunton. At the time, we had 13 employees, and we had 17 miles of railroad, and then we were taking on or acquiring 200 miles of railroad.
Wow.
Had to bring on an additional 50 people. And with railroads, it's interesting because you don't get to ease into a new operation. It's one day the old operator was operating, the next day the new
Well, that's
operator
what I was going to ask is how much time did you have to like make that transition happen?
We had about 9 months of
Okay.
preparation, but literally
Still.
it is you turn the light switch on, and it's one of those things that if you knew everything that it was going to be involved in it, you probably would have never done it.
Say
And
what?
so it's kind of like going in with your eyes half closed.
Sure. Yeah.
And so plenty of challenges there. With the Virginia Scenic Railway, surprisingly, the biggest challenge has been acquiring more cars.
Yeah.
In order to, there are a lot of older passenger cars out there, but they're not in the condition and refurbished to the level that we would want to provide for our guest.
Mhm.
And so getting those additional cars has taken a long time, but they're coming along now, and so we're starting to expand our fleet now.
Yeah, and I know that's super important to you guys is that aesthetically there's cohesion between it, right? So it's a brand just like anything else that it matches, but it's also the quality of experience and service that people have when they're on it. So
Right.
yeah, that's another thing that I wouldn't have thought about. I would just think like train cars are plentiful. And it's like, well, it still has to be the right fit for the business and service that you guys are providing.
Right. And so all of our cars are stainless steel cars. Most of them are what they were manufactured by the Bud Corporation back in the 50s.
Mm,
And so these are cars that are, 75 years old now.
wow.
And they've been through many iterations over those 75 years when they first came out. And then through the larger railroads when they were running passengers, and then they would go over into Amtrak service, and
Mm,
then it would go into private service, and then it's come to us. And so they've had a long history of renovations and usage over
yeah.
the years. But we tried to make sure that the cars, that when you go in them, we don't want you to have the feel of you're going back into a 1950s car.
Mm,
When you go into the rail cars, we want you to feel like you're going into maybe a restaurant kind of area, or an area where you just feel comfortable sitting and talking with friends. And so we're not going for the historic feeling on the
nostalgia.
inside, the
Yeah.
nostalgia on the inside. On the outside, we definitely keep with the general Bud theme, but we
Yeah.
do keep our colors on there, and so everything's consistent.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned too of just the feel that people have. I do think train travel in particular has this certain like romance feel around it and that style or thought that people have for it. Why do you think train travel is so different or has that essence compared to another either mode of transportation or just like we have here, excursion and experience? And so people will come back to where they started, but like why do you think train has that essence?
It's interesting because, of course, we have the scenic train rides here, but also I've started riding Amtrak more because I have a
Mm.
daughter who lives up in New York, and there's a great
Oh,
service from
straight there,
Charlottesville to
yeah.
New York. And train travel is really overall very relaxing
Yeah.
because you don't have to worry about anything. You're not driving.
Mhm.
Someone else is taking care of that. You're not crowded. There's a lot of room in a rail car,
Yeah.
especially in our cars. We have lots of room in there, so you don't feel if you're on an airplane, you're very confined, and the scenery is not very good on an airplane.
Sure.
But you also have time to just look out the window. You
Mhm.
can see the scenery going by. You can get up and move around. On our excursions, we encourage people to get up. We encourage them to go out into the vestibules where they
Yeah.
can get into the open air. Um, but it gives you a time of just relaxing and not
Mhm.
really worrying about traveling or thinking about traveling, but just enjoy where you are. And more importantly, I think, is to enjoy who you're with.
Yeah.
And so you've got time to sit there and talk if you want to talk. You have time to eat if you want to eat. You have time to just look out the window if you want to look out the window. Get
Mhm.
up, move around. A lot of people enjoy talking to other people on the train and just making new acquaintances.
Yeah.
Just new conversations. And so it's just there's so much more flexibility, and less restrictions when
Mhm.
you're on a train versus in a car or in an airplane or something like that. It's just you're much more confined, and you're having to concentrate on other things. On a rail car, you don't have to concentrate on anything else. You can
Yeah.
just enjoy the trip.
I feel like it's really one of the only mode of transportations in modern times where it's still an experience
Yes.
even while transporting too. And I love to you're talking about the people you meet. I would just in general as a personal antidote. We're so fortunate here in Stanton because our train station is literally right downtown. I
Right.
can walk to it from my office. And so between the Virginia Scenic Railway that comes through Thursday through Sunday, Amtrak that comes through 3 days a week, I love sometimes just going to the train station and just talking to people there. It's a great way for
Right.
us to get a feel for why people are visiting, the groups that are coming. You always meet a friend group or a reunion group or multi-generational, and they just have the best stories and they're so excited even waiting for the train to board, especially the scenic railway. But then even around the holidays when I went
Right.
over, it was so special at the train station waiting for families. We were doing some decorations and just waiting for families for their kids or grandkids or parents to come off the train and greet them from the holidays, that it was so exciting. So yeah, I agree. I think that that personal connection and ability is so unique to train. And I'm curious from you guys though, because I'm sure many a places wanted the scenic railway to come to them. It is such a gem, and it is such a successful excursion for Virginia as a whole. It's the only one. Why do you think the Virginia Scenic Railway works so well right here in Stanton?
When we started the thought process of doing an excursion train,
Mhm.
my wife and I, we kind of joke about this at the railroad, did some extensive research.
Yeah.
We actually went and rode two different excursion trains. That's all, and we just kind of rode the train
Yeah.
and just were kind of not necessarily critical, but it was like, hey, if, is there anything that we would do different here? What are the good things here? What are the things that we would improve on? And so that's kind of the way we based the Virginia Scenic Railway is what kind of experience would we want to have on
Mm.
there? But part of that is the scenery,
Mhm.
and part of that is the place where you go to get on the train. Some excursions are in just little little towns, or some of them are just little waysides. That's pretty much the only thing that's
Yeah.
there. Stanton is very different. I mean, Stanton is a very visitable, if that's a word,
I
town.
like it.
You like that
Yeah,
word?
I like that.
But you can come here for the day. You can come here for the weekend.
Yeah.
There's lots to do. There's lots of nice shopping. There's you can go to the Shakespeare Theater. You can get some cultural events in. You can go to some of the museums. There's lots of other things to do, and so it doesn't have to just be a day trip.
Yeah,
So many of these other places, that's the only thing there is the excursion trip.
sure.
And so Stanton is really ideally set up to be able to bring even more people in because they can make a whole weekend of it,
Mm.
and the train ride only be part of the reason for visiting.
Yeah.
Um, but then also a couple of other things you look at is your views. I mean, you want to have some nice scenery,
Yeah.
and so ideally you have great experience on the train and you have great views outside the train. If
Sure.
you've got that, then you've got a real good combination. And so Stanton, going west out to Goshen, I mean,
Mhm.
just amazing
Beautiful.
views, nice
Yeah.
pastoral scenes, and the mountains there, or going east, going to Ivy. You're going through the tunnels, you're going up the mountain,
Yeah.
so you've got beautiful scenes that you can see through there. But going back to the real thing was Stanton's a good town.
Mm.
It's a good town to visit. It's a good town for people to come to and spend time before or after the
Yeah.
train ride.
I feel like the essence of each match so well too of as you talked about earlier, the train itself, you guys do such a great job of blending, externally the historic natures of the train and that style and quintessential style for 75 years. But inside it's modern and it's comfortable and it's what we come to know of service. And I feel like the town itself of Stanton is very similar,
Yeah.
very historic aesthetically, but also so many modern cultural aspects to it and entertainment and rich art and rich engagement that I feel like those match very, very well.
I think it's a really good point, and that's
Yeah.
what we tried to achieve there because, we didn't want to go with the nostalgia and the stepping back in time because we consider ourselves a modern railroad,
Mhm.
and we think that there's more people that just want to go out for a great trip. It just happens to be on a train that makes it even better.
Yeah.
But it's really just we're concentrating not so much on the train trip as we are the experience. We
Yes.
want it to be just an experience that people enjoy, and they'll come back again, bring more friends, different friends,
Mhm.
but to put you in a setting that just sets you up for a great experience.
Mhm.
Now, we also love the people who just love train rides.
Sure.
And so there's a group of people that they just want to go ride a train, and that's great, and we're set up for that too. But we try to bring more people on that just want a unique experience and a good time. Our trips are 3 hours long, so
Mhm.
you're spending 3 hours with friends or family
Yeah.
in a nice setting and having a nice meal kind of thing.
Yeah. A perfect example of this, of the variety of groups that can enjoy this. It was the same, pretty sure it was the same trip, or it was the same weekend at least. I went up to the train station back during the summer, and I was talking to a couple people and just had to drop stuff off before one of the excursions. And I met one group of gentlemen, about 12 people, I think, were riding together, and they were part of a train club and had done excursion from throughout Virginia.
Right.
And, so they were talking to me about all the technical terms and about different aspects of the car. Like, they had done their research and knew what to expect before they stepped on. And then I looked over to the other side, and I saw I saw a group of senior ladies, of five ladies. They had conductor hats on, whistles, and bandanas on. I'm like, what's going on here? What is this? And they were here for their girls trip, reunion trip. Every other year, they all live in different states, different places now, and they do a girls trip every other year. And this year they came back to Staunton. They'd been here years ago. I think one graduated from Mary Baldwin. They hadn't been back
Right.
since. And so they came for the weekend. They were doing the train trip, and they were just the most hilarious, magnetic group. And so to see both of those, of technical enthusiasts, but also just a group of friends that were coming to reconnect and laugh a lot and share a
Right.
great memory, that when they get together in 2 more years, they'll say, "Do you remember when?"
Yeah.
That's what I love about it so much.
And
Yeah.
I see a lot of that on the train. I do
It's my
like to
favorite.
go and to ride the train occasionally.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for the guests that I usually bring with me because about a quarter way through, I'll start
Where
wandering.
you go?
Yeah, I start wandering the train, and I just like sitting down and talking to people and asking them why they're why are they here, and where are they from, and why they chose to do this instead of whatever else they could do, and what improvements can they see, and things like that. But you have a wide variety of people. One of the couples I met recently were from Florida, and they had just gotten married, and this is where they were going for their honeymoon. They were just going to Virginia,
Oh,
and I said, "Well, how did you find the Virginia Scenic Railway?" He said, "Well, we just looked at exciting things to do in Virginia, and
mhm.
it came up, and they had a blast."
Yeah.
And then, yeah, there's times where I'll sit down with some train enthusiasts, and they are so far advanced in their knowledge of the train that we're
Wow.
running, that I'm just in awe of
Right,
everything
taking
they
notes real
know.
quick.
Yeah, but then you have lots of friends getting together
Yeah.
and families, and so it's
It's a
really
beautiful
neat.
mixture that it's a place that all can come together for
Yeah,
that. So, and I'm curious from your guys' side, because we've talked a lot about the experience as a whole. I mean, as we know, Virginia is so rich in our history. We're coming up on the 250th anniversary of
right.
America, and especially Virginia, from Virginia of that. How did Buckingham Branch approach, whether it be in the work you guys do in general, but especially with the Scenic Railway? How did you guys approach honoring history? And because you guys go through several communities and areas, and even just nature that you pass along the way, how did you guys approach honoring that history?
It's interesting because, I mean, the history really goes all the way back to our name. I
Mm,
mean, the Buckingham Branch Railroad, the reason we came up with the name of the Buckingham Branch Railroad is the first line that we got in Buckingham County. That's what it was known as. That's what the C&O Railroad called it, was the Buckingham Branch. And so that's where our name came from. Then when we took over this line, this was the Richmond and Allegheny division of the C&O Railroad. So this becomes our Richmond and Allegheny division. And so we like to keep the historic nature of the railroad where we can. We run, our engines are 70 years old, some of them,
yeah.
so we keep the older locomotives, but we keep them up to modern
Mm,
standards. In the rail cars, of course, we keep the exteriors, the same, and update the insides. But then also, as we're traveling along on the trip, as we're going through these interesting spots, we have narration that will give you a history. You'll get a history of Staunton. You'll get a history of Swope. You'll have some anecdotal stories as you get to Goshen, or when you
yeah.
get to Ivy, or going through the tunnel. And so we use those opportunities to teach people a
Mhm.
little bit about the history of the line, the history of the area. And some of it we're just talking about other businesses that are just not really directly associated with the railroad, but they're here.
Yeah.
And so we like to give people some information about the area and, give them reasons to come back and explore some more.
Yeah. Oh, it's one of my favorite part. There were so many things that I learned along the way because, like you mentioned, sometimes there's historical call outs to businesses you're passing, the communities as a whole, even mountains that you pass of that are very important that I wouldn't know, but that we want to know. And even like the train signals, I didn't know why there was a certain order. I thought they were just blowing their horn and having a good time. No, which is like duh. Even things like that. So I feel like there's such a diverse but digestible history that's given, and I love that you guys are accessible with it. So of course, audibly it's coming through, but there's also visual aids that people
Right.
can have to go through the history and kind of track your progress along the way. So I love that aspect of
Oh,
it too.
thanks.
Yeah. Speaking of historical. I am curious because obviously people can share a lovely meal along the train as well. If you could invite any figure, past or present, to join a train ride with you, who would you invite and why?
You know, I would probably invite Thomas Jefferson. I
Okay.
admire Thomas Jefferson a lot. And not only in his leadership and his, the Declaration of Independence and all the things that he did from a governmental standpoint, but also his architecture, just wonderful
Mm,
things. But his Monticello and his plantation that he was born on and raised on
mhm.
and ended up owning uh, is our railroad goes right through the middle of it.
Yeah.
And so between our railroad goes between Monticello, which was his home place, of course, but
Mm,
he was actually born in Shadwell, which is right across the river.
mm,
And so, of course, the railroad wasn't there when he was alive,
right.
but I think it'd be interesting for him to see what's become of the state.
Mm,
This is something that was very instrumental in even exploring the state, exploring our nation. Um, but to be able to get on a train, which he probably never would have imagined,
yeah.
and to go through the state and to go through the different areas and see some of the
Mm.
scenes that he could see, I think would be pretty cool.
Yeah, to see moving infrastructure, moving people for dinner, moving all types of things. That would be fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about the history and the past. I'm curious about the future. I know you've seen a lot of changes probably in the nearly 30 years, even just that time that you've been working with Buckingham Branch. Is there anything that stands out both looking at the last 30 years that have changed most dramatically, but also looking forward into the next 10 years? Where do you see, especially when we look at passenger and historical cultural train experiences, what have you seen and where do you see it going?
Well, I think there's definitely a niche for historical train travel.
Mm,
Um, it's a different experience that you just don't have anywhere else, and so just that relaxing time, and also the nostalgia of people. People love getting on the train and talking about. Their dad working for the railroad, their
yeah.
grandfather working for the railroad. They used to live next to the railroad, and they hear the horns that it was come by, and so it kind of gives them a opportunity to reflect and so I think that there's definitely going to continue to be growth, and we have plans for growth. And so, right now, our growth is in two areas. One is in acquiring more cars,
Mhm.
and here just starting up. As a matter of fact, in a couple of days, we're going to have our first trial runs of a
Yeah.
dome car, and dome cars are very, very unique perspective on how to see not only the railroad but the world.
Yeah, can you describe for people listening that may not be familiar, what's the difference in a regular train car, passenger car versus a dome passenger car?
So a regular car, you've got the windows on the side of the
Mhm.
car. You look through the windows and you see everything out of the side. In a dome car, when you sit up top, it's almost a 360-degree bubble.
That's
And
wild.
so you have a clear view up and out and down all the way around. And so I actually rode the dome car last week. We had to move the car. And so I decided I'd just get on up there and I would ride. and you can see in front of the locomotive. And so you can see
Damn,
what's actually coming up on the tracks. I mean, you just have an uninhibited view all the way around the car.
that's
And
incredible.
so it really gives you just a fabulous experience from a visual
Yeah.
perspective of just being to see 360 degrees uninhibited views
Yeah.
of going through the mountains and going through the tunnels and things like that. And it's just really, really neat. And so that
Yeah.
car is going to start up here. We're doing some trial runs this week, and it'll actually go into revenue serviced the 1st of April. So we're
Yeah.
excited about that. We've also are bringing a new coach car on here within the next
Mhm.
couple of months. And what that's going to do is give us a lower price ticket.
Yeah.
I mean, so for people who don't want the full meal experience, just want to ride the train, then they can get on the coach car, and it's a very nice modern coach. Not something that you would be familiar with if you'd ridden in on other trains, and so. But also, we do plan on starting in other locations too. So we've got a lot of effort here in Staunton to build out our own loading station. So
Yes. Tell us about this.
yeah, so we're going to have an area where we can. First of all, the parking can be right next to the train, but we're going to have just our own little park. It's basically the best way to describe
Mhm.
it. And so you come in, and we'll have box cars that are set up as like a visitor center, and the
Yeah.
restrooms and a gift shop and things like that. But then, a nice park area with, places where you can go and sit down underneath the trees, or you can sit in the pavilion and wait for the train, and you can get up close to the locomotive. We'll actually have a locomotive that you can actually go inside,
That's
and a
exciting.
caboose that you can get inside and see what it is inside of
Mhm.
those things. And so we think it's going to give just a lot a unique space for people to spend before the train ride and after the train ride, and
Yeah.
then to be able to come visit
What a great way
downtown.
to be immersed in the full experience, and that's something I think you guys talk a lot about, even just with Stanton as a whole, is the experience really starts before they ever board, and that's I
Right.
think also why it works really well here in Stanton, is Stanton lends itself to that. But what an elevated it goes right back to what you learned with Bob is seeing an opportunity and growing into that next phase, and I think that's absolutely the perfect next phase is becoming a fully immersed experience and excursion from the time you park your car.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's the idea. From the time you park your car till the time you get back in, everything needs to be, a high level experience. So it's
Yeah.
all part of it. You
Yeah.
can't just have one aspect that's great. It needs to all be great.
Yeah, and I'm super excited, one, about the dome card, tickets are out now for that, and also the additional card that's coming because I know we get requests often from groups that are coming, whether
Right.
that be 10 people or 50 people. We have both extents to that, so this is going to be such a friendly option for groups that are traveling, or like you said, people just looking for tiered pricing options, tiered
Right.
experiences. The dome car is going to offer an adult-friendly space,
Right.
which will be great. So a lot of exciting things. That's what we were talking about earlier. Is just you've definitely signed up to an exciting career. That's for sure.
Well, it's been fun, and it's neat to be able to be creative, and
Yeah.
that's something you don't really think of too much in a railroad environment or industrial environment. But the excursions do give us an opportunity to be creative,
Yeah.
and so to create an experience to show off our railroad. I mean, we're proud of what we've done. We're proud of what Virginia does, when it comes to rail, and a good way to give people an opportunity to see it up close and personal.
You've created magic for sure, and on that side, I mean, there's so much we could talk about, but one of the last things I'm curious from your standpoint for anyone listening that maybe hasn't done train travel or they've always wanted to, what would you say to them that you think kind of separates train travel or a reason they should explore it?
Yeah, I think you should try it because it is an opportunity to just to not worry about other things. It
And what
it
a great time.
really
There's so much to worry about in the world enough, and what a luxury to just take that off.
and it very much can be just an opportunity to just sit and enjoy.
Mm,
and you don't have to be concerned about other things.
yeah.
And so, whether that be to sit there and enjoy it by yourself or to enjoy it with friends, um, everything's taken care of for you. You don't have to worry about stoplights. You don't have to worry about traffic. Yeah, you don't have to worry about getting up and getting a drink. It's all coming to you, and it's just a relaxing trip. I don't know a better way to describe it, um, other than it's a time that you can make it what you want to make it, whether you want
Yeah.
to see the scenes going by or talk to the person
Mm,
next to you or the table next to you.
yeah.
It's very open for that.
Yeah, and I love what you said too about taking the worry off, and I think that's why it's such a good mechanism for families or friends or couples or individuals just looking to make some type of new memory. Is I feel like when you do take off all those extra worries or planning or ideas that have to come any other mode, right? It truly allows just complete space to connect with whoever you're with or
Right.
what you're doing and truly create a memory that is worthwhile and it's happy, right? A
Right.
lot of times stresses tend to skew our plans a little bit. So I think that's why it's so perfect. And you guys have absolutely just done an incredible job. And it's been incredible to watch how much it's grown since 2022 and that the world really, I mean, we have worldwide visitors come to the Virginia Scenic Railway, especially so to see the world love it as much as we love it and as proud of we as we are here in Staunton. So I'm just very appreciative for what Buckingham Branch has created, has continued to develop, and the partner that you guys are here in Staunton.
Well, thank you so much, and it is great to be a partner here in Staunton.
Yeah.
It's a great town, and it's a great place to do a lot of things, but especially a great place to ride a train.
Nailed it. And on that note, guys, thank you so much for listening in to the U is Silent We Aren't podcast, continuing checking what we have going on. If you like what you heard, and this was a fabulous episode and conversation, so please give us a great review. Just go ahead and give us 5 stars. It's perfect. Tell a friend, share it, and continue tuning in. And Steve, I mean, people have heard amazing things. How can they grab their tickets now or stay up to date with what's going on with both Virginia Scenic Railway and Buckingham Branch?
Just look up Virginia Scenic Railway on the web. You'll go to our website. You can get tickets and information all over the place. So that's all you got to do.
You can pick out a great dessert too. That's always my favorite. That's the hardest part. That's the only stressor is figuring out which
There
dessert
you
you're
go.
going to choose. So, Steve, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you guys for listening in. We'll talk soon.